Hello, this is Julia Bushkova, and today I am going to share with you something that I've been doing lately. And that is a very exciting piece of news for me. I received a completely brand new violin concerto that was written for me this summer by Arsenti Karitonov. And with that, I would like to talk to you and show the very important thing of how to approach a piece that has never been recorded by anybody and never been performed by anybody, and you're the first person who will be playing it. So what do you do? Besides the fact that it's really exciting to work with a living composer, whom, by the way, you may ask sometimes, question here or there, but right now I will be speaking mostly about and showing you some things that come as a number one concern. And that is, you receive the music, and in that music there are no bowings and there are no fingerings. The composers very often are not violinists, and very often they play other instruments. In this case, for instance, pianists. A lot of good composers are pianists. They will have no knowledge of our bowings and fingerings, but they have very good idea of how they want their music to sound. This concerto is in 5 short movements, and I would right now only show you a little bit of the beginning of it, of the prologue. And so I will show you right now how I'm reading for the first time and how the notes sound and how they were written. And they go like this. So all the notes sound good. They sound interesting to me. What I hear in them is a speech-like pattern. I want to bring out some of those notes, and again I will play this for you again. And right now I'm still playing purposefully without any bowings, without helping the phrase with anything, just hearing the notes and deciding how I'm going to group them, how I'm going to find the centers to which I go and from which I will be going. Okay, so I really definitely hear in this first phrase, I hear the very beginning, very speech-like. So the pickup first. To me, it's very clearly enunciating syllables. So, for instance, I would decide to leave it as separate bows, and I would not want to, for instance, slur this. I could. Will it be beautiful? Sure. But it will not be that speech-like quality that I hear in those several notes. All right, so I leave them as they are. Next, I realize that I don't want to cross strings. I don't want, not because I don't want to cross strings, because I want to keep it in one timbre, in one color. It's very important to decide what color you want in the phrase. And in here, the color is actually very somber. It's very inward. It's just dark, okay? And so we usually associate that kind of darkness with the G string. So I will be staying on G string, I decide. So my consecutive notes, they will be also on G string. Then I realize that, okay, I will be going back to the first position, to the notes of B. I want a little bit more of singing connection to it. Yes, it's speech, but not all speech is like this. right? Some of our speech is more flowing and some less, and here I believe more flow is necessary. So here the slurs come in to help me. All right, one of the first tries in that phrase, I actually did this. And so that was also a very good candidate for staying in, except I didn't like what would come after that in terms of even feeling and how I will construct the bowings. And therefore I decided still to have another slur. And then from here, I'm going up on G string. And here it was no-brainer to me that I want and need to end on down bow and not on the up bow like it was before when I was playing just all notes as they come. So you will hear this phrase in the performance, actually, in the recording. And even though this recording is still with the piano, since there just hasn't been time to play it with the orchestra, as a matter of fact, orchestral score has just been finished and the music hasn't been premiered yet. So what you are getting here is a preview. Very, very unique situation. You will hear how it sounds in the context. And then from this phrase, I'm building the next following phrases using now the same principle. So anytime there will be the speech-like beginning of three notes, for instance, later or some other, I will keep the same articulation as I kept here. So I would keep that because I think that is a good thing to make a continuity of these phrases, okay? Another interesting situation in the same first movement and later in some other movements is something that we violinists a lot of times come across, and that is long notes. Long notes, and in some cases repeated long notes, and you don't know how to deal with them, and you don't know what to do before or after them either, unless you know the context of music. So in my case, when I first got the music, as I already said, I think, I didn't have the piano part. I did not have the orchestral part, so I didn't know what harmonically is going on in there. And believe me, if you have like this, you might think, oh, well, what is it? What do I do? You don't know on which string to play. You don't know what color you want unless you know what's going on in the orchestral part. And in my case, since it was still being made, I had to go to composer, and that's the lucky part, and just ask him what is there, what is going on there. And so he showed me the harmonies, and it immediately informed me what I had to do there and also prior to those notes. And instead of playing them as I would probably maybe otherwise do on E string, I put them on A string. And colored them very differently and kind of made them almost disappear, and even used harmonic at one point, and then restarted again with a new phrase when the harmony showed me that the new phrase was starting. So those are really, really the most important aspects. So I guess if I could stress anything, of course I could stress the need for the whole context, the need for the whole music and not just your part, definitely. And then from that you can make it. Basically, the cool part is that you become a sculptor. Yeah, you can put everything together and it just becomes something alive. All right, another aspect, next movement, for instance, second movement. Second movement is a scherzo. And when I got the music, it wasn't even called the scherzo yet. I just got the notes. And so seeing those notes, reading them, I decided to also put them on a G string. Why? Well, because I started on a G string, my first movement. I thought, okay, well, maybe that would be a good thing. I would keep some continuity and I would do it on G string. So the notes went like this. That was the motif. I like the motif, and I think, okay, so I would do it on G string, and then I realized what the tempo would be faster, and probably is not going to sound very good, so it probably would be slower. And it immediately was reverberating better and traveling the distance better. Okay, but so anyway, for a while I was sitting on that G string, and the character then became quite heavy and I would say forceful. So I played like this later when it was already pretty much ready, and composer and I got together to play it together with piano. He said, oh, no, that's very heavy. Why are you so forceful? Well, it's because I thought it would be good on G string, and then I realized, oh, he wants completely different character. Now there's a little wrinkle here. Again, in the music, and sometimes that's exactly what will happen. In the music, there was no indication of dynamic, okay, at that point. So then I asked, okay, so what is the dynamic here? Oh, it's mezzo piano. I said, oh, of course. Now, what does mezzo piano exactly mean? Or what does forte mean? Or what does piano mean for you? Very importantly, I here direct myself, of course, to very advanced players or professionals. At first, when we learn, of course, it means quiet and soft and loud, but not now, not anymore, not when you interpret something on this professional level. Dynamics are characters, completely and only characters. So if I'm given mezzo piano, I am not going to play it that way. It cannot be. Even if I reduce the volume, it still will be a wrong character. Mezzo piano is much more playful. It may be sinister, but it certainly won't be heavy. Okay, so for that, I had to move the first notes to the D string and become lighter. So that became the very first phrase of the second movement. And then after that, again, every time I had ta-da-dum, pa-da-dum, pa-da-dum, and it's in a motif, an opening motif. Every time I put it on slur, and it was clear to me what to do, how to structure it later on. Then the second movement is great. I mean, there's also twice a very, very nice melody that is almost, well, okay, I won't describe it. How about you would listen to it? If you are interested, I recommend it. Okay, moving on. Third movement, the most beautiful romance. And in romance, I must say that that's where the collaborative part was very wonderful between us. And that's because at one of the sections, which was really gorgeous section, the composer gave me single notes. It was beautiful, but it was written in single notes, and there was just a lot of just beautiful stuff. And I thought, it's sort of like a peak. It's like a climactic, more climactic thing. And I offered, maybe you could think about some double stops here, so just to have a richer texture. And he agreed. And now we have richer texture, we have double stops. And it sounds wonderful. Another interesting detail I want to share with you is this. A lot of interesting works, interesting new concerti or new pieces are very rarely performed. And there are many reasons for that, perhaps. But one of the reasons, as I know just from the fellow professionals, that they a lot of times are pretty horrendously difficult. Not difficult like Paganini caprices or Paganini concerto or Ernst, that is difficult virtuosically. No, not that way. It's difficult in the terms of awkwardness. And this is something all professional violinists know, that sometimes we have to play piece that, yes, eventually it will be good, but you have to put so much work into that, and it still might not sound the way the composer intended it to sound, because in his head it was all perfect. Let's say maybe he's a pianist again, and maybe on piano that sounds just brilliant and wonderful, but on violin it just does not lie in there. And if only a couple notes were changed, it would be so much better, but you cannot change them. You're not a composer, and you cannot ask composer, maybe they're not around. And in my case, I had the luxury of having the composer nearby, and so I couple times had to go to him and say, look, that is written in such a way that no one is going to be dealing with this. People just are not going to bother. Okay, everything goes so well here and there, and it makes perfect sense, and then suddenly this. I mean, please change something. And we had some pretty heated arguments, because, of course, no composer wants to change any notes. They have these notes in their heart, and it's really hard to get them to change them. But once you show them like how it sounds and how much work maybe it will be, or just it's kind of awkward, and they see it. And luckily, this composer is wonderful. He is very agreeable to, because he wants the phrase to sound great. So those little changes were made in a couple of the places, and now it's very enjoyable to play. It's not that easy maybe, but it's not unplayable. You don't have to go into jungles and find how to do this. It's the fingerings. You can find the fingerings. You can find the bowings. So it's all good. Okay, and then for me always the most captivating parts are the slow movements. The slow movements carry a lot of meaning, and to me they're always the pinnacle of any work. Another wonderful aspect of working with a living composer is the true collaboration, in which sometimes new ideas spring to life. For instance, in our case, I was playing the ending of this third movement, and they were very beautiful, very high notes there that were written already, and so I played them, and so they pretty much went like this. And continued being all in this up area, which by itself is really, really beautiful, and you can just stay there with vibrato and all. But then I somehow had the idea that maybe we can try them in harmonics instead, and we tried in harmonics, and the composer said, oh, that's exactly what I wanted, actually. He really didn't particularly love the fact that all of the notes, upper notes, were having this very good, even vibrato and all, but he had a different idea in mind. He just did not think that maybe it could be harmonics in this particular case, even though some others it worked already. So we moved them down, the same notes. So the composer transferred those to harmonics, made them harmonics, and you can hear in the recording the beautiful effect that it makes. So if you're interested and you want to hear the whole piece, which I highly recommend, of course, you can do this by using this link. And now that is the only link you can use. It is a recording still with the piano, as I said before, not with orchestra yet, but still you will get a really good impression of what this wonderful piece is like. I hope you enjoy it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and I will see you all later.